We just had the shooting in Dayton, Ohio, El Paso, Texas. The president of the United States came out and said that the person pulls the trigger, not the gun. Okay, mental illness is something that he was trying to connect that with. Now, you tell me, if you're advocating for mental health, why are you cutting it? So I can't have it either way. I can't have gun control, or I can't have funding or mental health. So what's going on? It just has me thinking, James, mental health is just another thing that America seems to be complicit about. Something we have to realize is that people who suffer from mental illness doesn't even realize that there's anything wrong with them. They believe that this is normal because that's the way that they are. When in reality, 1 in 5 Americans experience a mental illness in a given year. We're talking about 45 million people suffering from depression, anxiety, etc. The stigma behind mental illness is something that is devastating. It's devastating to people, and not just here, but across the world. I read a report, 800,000 people died by suicide, 41,000 just in the United States alone. That makes us the 10th leading cause of death and suicide here in America. Have you ever experienced mental health or known anyone with mental health?
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked. I have several friends that are close to me that are experiencing mental illnesses, and it's really tough. When you listen to people talk about it, it's a very heavy subject. It's a very emotional subject. Mm-hmm. You can see the passion on their faces. You can see just the stress that it potentially has provided to them or placed on their lives. It's a very real thing.
Yeah.
But you bring up a great point when you mention the stigmas. There are tons of stigmas in our communities, particularly the communities of color. I spoke with my mother earlier today, and I was talking to her, asking her about just the attitudes that people had in the past. And my mother was a child of the 60s and 70s. So I was asking her about the attitudes that individuals had about mental health. And her response was, well, we would respond by going to faith. I want to take a moment and I want to talk about our people.
Yeah, because let's talk about that, because my dad, and yeah, I'm going to pick on him. Me and him have got to debates about this.
Right. And, so it's I think it's something that is common amongst Black people and the Latinos. They have similar stories about this as well, I'm sure. But stigmas in the community around mental health or mental illness is long-standing in our history. It stems from racism to a degree because we're trying to appease the white man. And by trying to appease the white man, we add a layer of stress to ourselves. And then we have this mental health issue on top of that. And so it only compounds on top of that.
I actually think that the racist part is us. The mental illness came from us fighting racism over the years and us being a victim.
Unfortunately,
of racism.
I think you're right when you're saying that there is trauma that has made its way through the years. And a little later in the discussion, I definitely want to hit at how there's two types of trauma. There is that internalized trauma, and then there's the trauma that we take on because we actually witnessed it. Well, I'll talk about it right now. Well, you got two types of trauma, right? You got the type of trauma that you receive when someone calls and tells you that, you have a loved one that is lost, or you hear some really bad news or something bad is in your atmosphere.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's one level of trauma. But then you have the other type of trauma where you actually witness it, where you're witnessing someone dying, or money has been stolen from your account, or just something really bad happens directly to you.
Yeah.
That is a higher level of trauma, and it leaves a much more damaging blow to your mental health.
It actually increases your chances. It doubles.
Yeah, it doubles it. And so let's talk about those stigmas though. Back to those stigmas amongst the Black community. When we talk about stigmas, we say that the person is possessed, right? Let me finish. So we got people are possessed, or they are not living right. Those are theories. Those are definitely theories or conclusions. Okay. We have the mentality of stay strong, man up, tough it up. And see, that's more than just a Black mentality. We got that from America. That's our American culture.
Pull yourself up
by the bootstraps, be strong and get through it. And that's very toxic because we don't acknowledge that there are times where you can't get through it. There are times where there is expected trauma and it's okay to grieve. And so we don't have healthy practices in place. But back to our people and talking about those stigmas. So we have these stigmas in place where we don't know if it's coming from God. We want you to man up and deal with it. And then the third and final one that is critical, and I'm willing to bet every black person that's listening to this podcast can attest to this. When there's issues that are going on at home, the first thing we hear growing up in our youth is what happens in this house
stays in this house.
Stays in this house.
So to what degree?
To the degree of, if you're going to talk to anybody else, you better talk to your pastor.
No, I mean, to what degree do I get to say something? Like, do you get to beat me in here and what happens in this house stays in this house? I mean, what does that mean?
This is a place where we discuss it. What does that mean? Why do you feel that our parents or, the older generation really pushed that if there's something going on, you keep it in the house? Just
let me rewind real quick. I think it was a simple thing with what you was talking about with the stigma. And I just think our parents dealt with things differently back then. I think this is a generational thing. I think that this generation has other forms of defining things and finding solutions for things. Whereas a person might identify itself today as depressed or having anxiety, a person back then would just qualify themselves as stress, or I'm stressing out over a test and that this is normal. What we have to realize is if you experience these things on a consistent basis, even when things are growing well, I think you should get that checked out. And I'm going to go ahead and disagree with my parents and probably your mother here when we say that, back then, you guys dealt with things differently, but I felt like things were ignored. I felt like there wasn't a clear definition for things now. There wasn't a scientific name behind it. This is our moment. We're the generation to do that.
I think that you're right when you say that things were ignored.
Yeah, it was sweep it under the rug.
I don't want to go as far as saying sweep it under the rug. But I do want to say that they were definitely under the mentality of this is a self struggle, and it's something that doesn't deserve the attention of a doctor. So, we talk about, okay, let's keep stuff in the house, right? Because I really want to get back to that. Let's keep stuff in the house. What are we afraid of? What are we afraid if the news gets out of the house?
Well, I don't want to get in trouble with my parents here. My parents wasn't doing anything unethical. It was just, when they went through hardships, we didn't have to exploit it to the world. Now, that was just my household. We're talking about thousands and thousands of people that have the same mentality. And that's why I asked you the question is, what exactly does that mean? Because how many times did we go to school with someone who didn't all have it there or was being abused or something like that, which contributes to mental health? How many people did we go to school like that? And just imagine if they had the same mentality that our parents had, but we were raised in good households. But imagine those deplorable households where they were told that and they had no outlet.
That's what we're talking about. I totally think that it's fucked up. So what I'm trying to figure out is what happens if it gets out? Like, what are we scared about?
Because we don't think there's anything wrong with it. We think that's normal.
Hold on, wait. To answer that, we first have to caveat and ask ourselves, does this stigma or the statement of what happens in this house stays in this house, does that apply to the generations living today, right now?
Yeah.
Raising kids?
Probably even more.
Probably even more?
Mm-hmm.
So is there like a level of shame involved in this?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
Because I'm going off of what my parents did, and
okay, so
they were not shameful of anything. It was just I didn't want anybody in my business.
Okay, it was just that simple. You didn't want anybody in your business.
Period.
I think that's unpacking. I think we can go even deeper into that because what does it mean for someone to be in your business? Okay, so like we're gonna just use the situation of mental health, right?
Right. Let's get to the
okay.
subject.
So let's see somebody has a mental health disorder of schizophrenia.
I personally know about that.
Okay, so you got somebody who has schizophrenia. The mom, dad, black household hit him with the happened in this house, stay in this house. Says it to the little brother, the sister, whatever. This diagnosis. We can't tell anybody about it. And it gets out, right? Mm-hmm. People on the street are talking about it. Your mom is at the grocery store. Somebody walks up to her. I feel so sorry. I don't know your mom's name. I'm just going to call her Brenda, just to be safe. Brenda goes,
this woman's name is not Brenda.
Okay, let's keep it clean. We don't need nobody harassing Bill's mama, okay? So Bill's mama name is Brenda for the sake of this podcast. So Brenda's at the grocery store, and she gets approached by Caroline, and Caroline's like, I'm so sorry, Brenda. Your son has schizophrenia. And, oh, my God. And now, how does Brenda feel?
Brenda's probably embarrassed.
Embarrassed, okay. Yeah. So embarrassed is accompanied with what? Shame, right?
Shame.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that.
No, but you didn't agree with it 2 minutes ago.
Well, because that's not the main reason. I mean, you named a scenario, so I had no choice but to agree with that. If you're asking me to agree with that scenario, of course I do.
Okay, so tell me a scenario. Tell me a scenario where shame is not involved with the information getting out.
Yeah, please, let's talk real.
Because I am talking real. That's not as real as it gets. Gossip on the street.
Because I know somebody that really went through it. Okay. Where his father beat him. Okay. Probably almost beat the life out of him. And they didn't have a name for what he was doing to this person back then.
Okay, so it wasn't like, did they tell him to keep it in the house? With the business keep it in the house?
Yes, the business was kept in the house.
Okay, so what happened if it got out?
It would probably save this boy's life.
Right.
Remarkably, this boy grew up to be, a successful person, but that really messed him up. So because he grew up with a household with someone that was mentally ill, and they couldn't put a name on it.
So let's use your point then. Let's use your point. If we have the stigma of what happens in this house stays in this house in regards to mental health, right? Because we want to keep it on that topic. In regards to mental health, and your response was people like my parents feel that they just don't want nobody in their business.
Right. That is not the same in every case.
What the fuck does that even mean? You don't want anybody in your business?
Get the hell out of my business. If the water gets shuts off, you don't have to go tell everyone at school that, hey guys, my water is off. That's what they meant by that.
So what's the expectation that people are going to go out and tell? Because my thing is, if something like that is going on, isn't the people involved who's out supposedly telling the world ashamed of it too, or don't want nobody else to know? I don't see it as something as they want to go out and just tell the world to. Oh, I don't have any lights at home. Oh, you know what? My cousin is having mental issues. Oh, you know what? I'm struggling. Or wait, really that's not something that that's not something that you just broadcast. So we have to ask ourselves.
Children do.
We have to ask ourselves, where did this level of secrecy come from?
It's not that deep. Look,
it's very that deep because your cousin or whoever the hell that was that has this mental illness could have had a better life had somebody went out and told the rest of the goddamn world, quote unquote. So we have to figure out.
Okay. So maybe his teacher should have been knowing, by his bruised ribs, cracked nose. How come they didn't notice that this boy was getting beaten at home?
How come there wasn't a fucking public conversation about what's going on?
How do you know?
You just told me that it wasn't. You literally just said it didn't go out the house and that he could have had a better life. You literally just said.
Okay, you got me there.
So we're trying to figure out why there isn't public conversation about
because they didn't have a name for it. I just told you, the person that was living in this household, it's not like they said, oh, my father is schizophrenic, I need to go get help. It wasn't like that.
No, but the conversation could have been like, there's something going on with Jimmy. We don't know what's up. To that point, if we're going to be real honest here, research that is out there on mental health is very young.
Yeah, and why is that?
Because we just get to the point where the world believes it.
So let's kind of shift gears here. Less than 20% of children or teens actually get the help that they need. But James, between 70 and 90% of people who said that they received the treatment they were supposed to get, they saw a difference in their lifestyle for the better. My question is for the government. If you see less than 20% of children are getting the help that they need for mental disorders, why are we not doing more? If you know that between 70 and 90% of people who actually receive the help are seeing better lifestyles. So that only leads me to believe that you could care less and that this is not a subject that is very important to the government right now. We have a domestic terrorist problem. Are we saying that these people are mentally ill? Is racism a mental illness?
Is racism a mental illness? I really like that question. Is that original?
That's original. This is original.
That
this
is
me
good.
just ranting on right now.
That is